Everyone has their own way of doing things. So Dave and I talk a little bit how we get things done with our mobile photography. Plus, there's a couple of news items. And of course, we look at what we've been shooting lately. All this and more coming up.
Oh my.
It's Monday, May 22nd, 2023. And here we are with episode 92 of the iPhoneography podcast. My name is Greg McMillan, and I'm sitting here with my good buddy Dave. I'm not right here, but
Well, yeah.
through the
Virtually. We're
internet
virtually next
lines.
to each other. Exactly.
Yeah. Hopefully, one of these
Exactly.
days we'll be able to sit side by side and do all this. But Dave Podner, hello, David.
Greg, how's it going today?
Well, it could be better. It
That is
could be
true.
better.
That is true.
Uh, my internet has been intermittently working today. So as we are recording, I'm using my phone hooked up to my iMac to. I'm just tethering it to get it to work because the Wi-Fi is on right now, but I don't trust it. So we'll see if it stays on for the whole thing, but I'm not counting on it. So anyway,
Yeah.
at least we're here. No video, so we can't see each other, but it's just like talking on the phone.
Yep. They're pretty close. Pretty
Yeah.
close.
How's things in the old Pittsburgh town?
Doing good. Doing good. We had an event on Saturday. It's the Cancer Relay for Life.
Mm-hmm.
And we were out with Roostery Business with a little tent out.
Oh
And of
yeah, yeah.
course, the only day in around a 2 week period where it's not bright and sunny, we had torrential downpours
Oh no.
for 6 hours.
While you were at the event?
Yep. While
Oh
we were
no.
setting up and while we were at the event. And the part of the problem is, of course, the fundraising part of it is people sign up and say, oh, if you donate $1 per lap, or, plan on doing so many laps, can you donate so much per lap? They get some money that way. Also, the vendors paying their fees and little donations and, like raffle baskets that people put together. But the turnout was kind of low just because it was raining from 8:30 till 2.
Oh man. What
So
a
yeah,
drag.
by the time it stopped, it really there wasn't a lot of people coming out even later when it got nicer. So
Well,
not the positive we all wanted.
no, no, that's right. Oh, well, yeah, it's like the Formula One race that was supposed to happen on the weekend. It got canceled because it was in Imola in Italy, and they have major flooding over there.
Mm.
So it just seems that the weather just doesn't want to cooperate in some places for some people. And knock on wood, has been pretty good here lately, and it's
That's
supposed to be
good.
really good tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
So I'll try to take advantage of it. I got out for a bike ride this evening, and my goal was to go 10K, and I actually did it.
Oh, there we go.
First ride of the season, and I'm hoping my knees and legs don't pay for it tomorrow. So, but anyway, just a couple of news items we're going to cover here real quick. WWDC is coming up, and we believe it is on our next regular recording date of June 5th. So we are going to record that night and talk about what we hear and see. And hopefully there will be some interesting photography related things to talk about. We won't go through everything they talk about, of course, but some of the highlights and things that we think might be worth mentioning. And we're also going to have a guest on that evening. If he's available that night, we'll record that night. If he's not available, then we'll wait till he is available, because we're going to have Mark Sadowski on, one of the co-founders of Tiny Shutter. So it's always good to talk to Mark, and we'll catch up with him. And so he was on, I think it was a couple of years ago after the WWDC. So it's always good
Yeah.
having him on.
Yeah, because that was for that one time. It was like on an off week that we had.
Yes, that's right. It was too. Yeah. Well, the stars are going to align for us this time, so that's good. The other thing I want to bring up is this is episode 92, and our 100th episode is coming up in the near future. I'm, we record every 2 weeks, so it's going to be like, I don't know, would that be 4 months? My head's mush right now. But anyway, whenever it's going to be, we want to do something special for that show, and we don't know what it'll be yet, but you know, we hope to have some special guests. I'd like to do a giveaway of some sort. I don't know. We'll think of something. Um, and you know what, Dave? I'm not even looking at a calendar. I have no idea, but that could be right around the time the new iPhone announcement is.
Well, let's see here. So this is episode 92, so we got 8 more episodes, so 4 months. It'll be close. Yes.
Yeah.
Hold
So
on. I
that'll
don't
be
want. I don't want
interesting.
anyone to think that 4 months is September. We haven't even hit summer yet, so I don't want people
Yeah,
to
I
think
know.
September yet.
Yeah. So anyway, we got lots of time to figure something out, but we're definitely going to try to make it something special, and hopefully we can make a few people happy that on that episode as well. So
Hmm.
watch for that in the future. So tonight we are going to talk about workflows, and you know, everybody has their own workflows, um, I kind of got this idea from the Mac Power Users podcast. Sometimes they'll have a guest on and they'll talk workflows with their guest, how their guest gets things done. And I thought, you know what? Well, Dave and I, we've got our workflows. Everybody's got a workflow of some sort. So we'll give people an idea of what we do and how we get things done with our iPhoneography. So, uh, Dave, do you want to start with one?
Sure, sure. Now, a lot of my, and I will let people know, most of the time I'm using the built-in camera app.
Hmm.
Partially because it's there. If from the lock screen you can just swipe from the right and it's right there. Also, it's the one that requires the least amount of setup,
Right.
versus a lot of the manual apps where you have to almost think about the setup of the shot before you take the picture.
Hmm.
And I'm one more, I'll try to get an image of what I'm trying to take a picture of. There's the mental image you have in your head, and
Hmm.
then there's what, due to limitations of physics, what the camera can do.
Right. Yeah.
And so I try to get that set up, but I still use like the built-in app and then use whatever post-processing, whether if I'm going for a realistic look, or if I'm going more for a fantasy, artistic, creative look. Then
Hmm.
it'll go from there of what comes off and what I can do. It sounds weird to say it depends on what it sounds a little weird to say it depends on what the photo tells me. That sounds weird, but it's
Not
kind of
really. I don't think it
once
does.
yeah, but once I see the photo after I take it, I don't want to try to force what comes out of the camera and what comes out of the internal processing, which it does, into
Hmm.
something that the camera would not be able to do.
Yeah. So
So a lot of it determines
you don't want your uh, your vision to outdo what the camera's capable of.
exactly.
Yeah. Well, that makes good sense, though. I mean, and you know what? We've been doing this long enough. I think that we can almost pretty well know what the camera's going to be capable of in a certain situation, right?
Well, hold on. I got an issue. Okay, there you go. You okay? Someone got his claw stuck.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, causing issues on podcast again, Leo. Sorry.
that's okay.
I didn't want him hurt. I didn't want to hurt himself.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's there. There's the I know I see something, or I see a scene, or I see a landscape, and or I see something that goes, that looks different, looks interesting,
Mhm.
and you take the shot, and then you're like, oh, I can't go in that direction, and you could try to kind of force it. A lot of times it depends on, oh, it's too dark, or it's too far away, or something's not working, and there's only so much you can brute force an image to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you try to overforce it, it's just not going to turn out good, and you're just not going to enjoy it.
Hmm. So this workflow is more in your mind, I guess, than something that you're actually doing. Well, I guess it turns into something that you're doing,
It
though,
turns
right?
in, right, right.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, the start of what I see. Like I see something like, oh, that I think that will make a good image, a good picture. I, if I have to move, or I get the picture, and then it's a matter of, okay, that what I see on screen doesn't match what I saw, or doesn't match what I want to see it.
Hmm.
How can I do it? And, oh, no, that doesn't work this way. This doesn't work that way. This doesn't work that way. I mean, there are specialty cases where the built-in app doesn't work as well.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, then it kind of goes off of there.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting point. It's like um, waiting for the photo opportunity to speak out to you, I guess, in some ways. Um, Years ago, in our local camera club, there was someone came up from Toronto to do a course on a thing called mixang, and it's a it's kind of like I don't know if Zen like is the right word, but it's when you're walking around someplace and the image kind of speaks out to you,
Hmm.
and then you capture what you quote unquote see or hear in the scene. I guess it is kind of Zen like, and that's that kind of reminded me of what you're just talking about. You see an opportunity, and uh, determine in your mind whether the Apple camera app will do it, and if not, then you resort to whatever means you need to do to make it
Hmm.
happen, make it work. So
Yeah.
that's an interesting workflow, that one. Um, I'll jump to one here,
Okay.
and it's kind of like what you just said, but um, it's capture to share, the capture to share process. So it basically involves what you just said, really, because I have to determine which app I can use to do the job. And so, okay, the capture is done. I got the image. And then, if there's an edit involved, then, I do whatever editing I want to do. Uh, and then, okay, so for my own workflow with regards to all that, um, capture and edit, and then the next thing is to share it. So how do I share it? Um, I'm in too many places because it's not it's not exactly an easy process for me because um, I want to put it on Glass, I want to put it on
Hmm.
Instagram, I want to put it on Vero, I want to put it on Facebook in some groups, and there's no way to do them all at the same time. Now I can do Instagram and have it go to Facebook, but it just goes to my own profile. It doesn't go to the groups.
Right.
So, um, and I've been really slacking on Vero. I really like it. I just haven't been posting there much because of all these other places it's going, and then excuse me, and then poor Vero gets left behind. But eventually, I will catch up and put some more up there too. But and then there's Flickr, and oh gosh, where else? Um, but so basically, when I'm sitting down in the evening after supper, maybe watching TV or something, I'll pull up my phone and I'll start posting to these sites. Now, one of the things that I do to try to speed up the process is in iOS, there's a really cool thing called text replacement where you can type in a shortcut and excuse me, have a a long string of text just automatically populate whatever you're
Okay.
typing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So in Instagram, my shortcut is IG post. So for Instagram post. And then as soon as I type those letters and hit the space bar, bang, all my hashtags are there that I normally put in. I'll have to add a few or maybe change a couple depending on what the image is or what it's about. But that's just a way of getting all my hashtags into the post. Um, Darkroom has a feature where you can copy your hashtags that you tell it to use or whatever, and then bang, you can just post them in your Instagram post or wherever you're posting.
Hmm.
But I kind of wish hashtags didn't exist because it's so hard to keep up on them all.
It
But
is, yeah.
yeah,
Especially if there's something that all of a sudden took off,
yeah,
or a hashtag which is new and you don't know about it till it's almost too later.
yeah. Like
And
okay, here's a good example of that is Mobiography on their Instagram account. They have weekly themes. So let's just
right,
say
you need
the
to update
theme
that
is
every week.
blue. And so you have to put Mobiography, the hashtag Mobiography, and then underscore the number that goes with that theme.
Mm.
And, um, obviously the number changes every week. So if you want to get your image noticed by Andy Butler is the one who runs Mobiography. If you want Andy to see that image and possibly feature it, then you have to have that hashtag in the into that post. So I mean that's something that has to be added in individually with everyone that meets that theme. So, but it's for me it's a convoluted process, and I just wish there was a way to do it all in one.
Yeah.
And and so
And they're
that's
not going to play
basically
nice, and they're not going to play nice with each other.
no, of course not. They couldn't do that.
They did at
Um,
one time back.
yeah, they
I don't
they
want to say
did.
back before big money became involved, because there was big money way back then, but
Yeah,
before money and big egos
yeah.
kind of
And this is going to
banging
lead.
heads against
This
each
is going to
other.
lead us into your next thing that we'll
Yeah.
talk about. But I'll just cap this off by just saying. So that's basically my capture to share process. I shoot, I do the edit, and I'll kind of expound on those a little bit in a minute. But and then the sharing thing, it for me personally, it's a kind of a lengthy thing because there's so many places I want the images to go. But
Hmm.
now you're going to mention how at one time it was easier.
Yes. Actually, up until tomorrow. So by the time it posted, it's already gone. But I used a program called If Then Then That. It's IFTTT,
Hmm.
and the way it worked was all these different organizations, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everyone else had their little APIs that other companies could put their hooks into. And one of they call them recipes, I believe, is
Yes.
applets. I'm sorry, applets.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um, was that you could post to Instagram, and then sometimes it takes a little bit of time, a few minutes, but it would automatically post it to Twitter, but it would use the text as you entered it, and it would post the image. So it would not
Yeah.
post a link to Instagram. It would do like Instagram and Twitter used to do like 7, 8 years plus ago, where you
Hmm.
would have the full image. And that was great. And like you said, you post to Instagram, you can post to Facebook,
Hmm.
not to groups. That's a bit of a pain. But at
Yeah.
least I could post to Instagram, and that would posted everywhere. It'd
Yeah.
be a one. Now that's only for single shots. If I was posting 4 shots to a post, that
Hmm.
would have to be manually, or video. It didn't do video, but if it was a single shot, that was great. Well, that's gone. That's going to go away mainly because Twitter's charging a lot of people a lot of money for access to their APIs. So if you have a paid account, you can get access to it, but if you have a free account, you lose that access.
Yeah. And
So,
that sucks.
like I said, it's just another step you have to do to make sure that, when you post something, it hits everywhere where it needs to.
Hmm. Yeah, I dabbled in IFTTT a few years back, and that was actually one of the applets that I did use at one time was posted to Instagram, and
Okay,
it
great.
takes a native image and goes right to Twitter. And you know,
There we
it
go.
was cool.
Yeah.
Uh, so I don't know, and listeners, if anybody knows, hit us up somewhere on social media, wherever, and let us know if you use the Apple shortcuts, whether it's a shortcut or an automation to achieve some of this. Because if I spent some time, I could probably look into it and find out. But I haven't yet, and I don't know if I'll have
Yeah.
time anytime soon. But it'd be cool that if there's a way to utilize that,
You could,
that stuff that's
yeah,
built into
you would have
iOS.
to, yeah, you could almost write your own shortcut where it would
Yeah.
be post everywhere.
Like I know there's shortcuts to, post your last image to Twitter or whatever, right?
Right, right.
Um, but I mean, I think that's just one place. It'd be nice to have it go to
Yeah.
a few different places.
Well, and also it'd be nice that you could post using different hashtags, add them in, or have them automated, or you know that
Yeah.
now one thing I am now, you know what, the text replacement, I forgot about that because that'll be a big help for me with something I do, posting to multiple Twitter accounts.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
right now I have a note that I manually copy and paste because I posted 3 different Twitter accounts, video clips. But
Right.
having it where I just have, one's for the show Awesome Cast. I could just say
Hmm.
AC Twitter or something like that, and it would have
Yeah.
all the hashtags. And I would only have
Yeah.
to update it once a week
Right. Yeah.
for each show would be different. That would make it help.
Yeah.
That would be a big help. So I have to remember that.
Yeah. I
Now,
mean,
something new. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, I have a lot of text replacements that I use,
Okay.
for different things. Like, I could put uh, MYE for my email. It as soon as I type in MYE and hit the space, bang, it puts my
Mm,
email address in wherever I'm typing
okay.
it in. That's just an example. Like there's so many different things you can do with it.
But one thing, and this is more about hashtags, because unfortunately, like you said, they are important.
Yeah.
If you use ChatGPT, um, you can ask it what would be a good hashtag for, and maybe describe the photo.
Oh yeah.
And if you use Bing, and sign in, either make a Microsoft account if you have an old Skype account,
Hmm.
um, you can sign in that way, and you can just put it in, and use the chat feature. Like, what would be a good hashtag for a photo of mountains and with a sunset in it?
Right. Yeah.
And it'll give you a big old list of hashtags.
Hmm. Yeah. Well,
And that can be a
I've
big
never
help.
really, and there's a Chat GPT iOS app now.
Yeah, they just rolled it out.
Yeah, I haven't even looked at it yet because I'm kind of resistant to this whole AI thing. Um, I just don't want it to think for me. But a case like that, though, that
Well,
could, as far as being a time saver goes,
yeah.
that could be an idea.
Well, I don't. You got to be careful. It's a tool.
Yeah.
You got to remember, it's a tool, and it's kind of like a large search engine. But instead of giving you, just like page of, like, here's 5 million links for you to look at,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, it'll say, well, like at least the one through the Bing, how Bing has it set up, it'll say, well, here's what I found, and here are the sites I found them from. So it does note if you ask questions, where's the information come from?
Hmm. Hmm.
So you can also say, oh, where did they get the information? Now, some things you always have to double check. You have to double check everything you get answers for,
Oh yeah,
you know.
yeah,
But it can help for something like, something like give me a list of hashtags for this type of image. Boom.
yeah, yeah,
It's just
yeah,
something
yeah,
to try. And you don't have to use it, but it sometimes acts as a nice springboard.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'll probably look at it. I'll probably look at it. For something like that. I'm certainly not going to,
Hmm.
let it write an essay or an article or something like that for me because,
Oh no.
you know, and I'll be honest with you, I did go to the Chat GPT website one time and I said, um, how did I word that now? I think I said, what is the iPhoneography podcast? And it was pretty
Hmm.
accurate, except it gave the name of two hosts that have absolutely nothing to do with the podcast and probably not even iPhoneography. I forget what names they were that it put in there, but it certainly wasn't you or me. So I thought, okay, this
Yeah,
isn't
well,
ready
that's
for
the
prime
thing you
time
have to
yet.
watch out.
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Um, so yeah, so the automation stuff, in the workflow, it could
Hmm.
be really handy, and it's really too bad that Twitter's breaking that, especially for you because you used it a lot at the time, and gosh, it's Twitter's just starting to suck in some ways. But anyway,
It is. Yeah.
uh, hmm?
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Oh, okay. um, so another workflow for me is, and I do these a lot lately, is my capture process for long exposures. And in my
Mhm.
notes, I put in brackets reheld, excuse me, reheld versus the others. And so I put that because reheld definitely is different than any other long exposure app that I use. Okay, other than Spectre, but Spectre's kind of a thing of the past for me now since Reheld came out because Reheld is just leaps and bounds better.
Mhm.
Um, but so for
Mhm.
Reheld, um, I, this is kind of in my mind, this workflow, because I kind of know depending on, and I'll stick to like moving water for this one. Pretty well know what it's going to take with Reheld now to get the result I want with the water flow. If it's really fast flowing water, I know I can probably get away with like a maybe a 7 or 8 second exposure. But if it's slower moving or maybe further away or like a big waterfall, I may need to go a little longer just so that it doesn't have that braided look to it. And and I'll do test shots before I settle before I settle on an image. Um, but as far as the
Mhm.
others go, like even longer, um, re-expose, slow shutter cam, anything that's requires a tripod. Um, it's kind of a different story because I'm not exactly sure what it's going to take, especially for even longer and re-expose. I'm not 100% sure what it's going to take to get the desired result with them. So basically, the workflow involves trial and error. And, with even
Mhm.
longer and re-expose because they shoot raw. I mean, even longer you can shoot JPEG, but when you're shooting raw, you got to be careful you don't overexpose anything, or you're going to have that like magenta cast to it, and it's irrecoverable data. So the workflow for that is basically finding the the zebra stripes really help with that. So I'll take a shot and I'll turn on the zebra stripes and I'll dial my exposures down to make sure that there's no zebra stripes in any of the highlights. The shadows can be blackened right out. See, for some reason, it just doesn't matter. They can be recovered in the editing process.
Hmm.
I would say for the most part, if not all the time. Um, these small sensors, they somehow have this crazy ability to hold detail in the shadow areas when it's so underexposed, it's ridiculous. But so, you know, capturing a long exposure, um, definitely aim for the highlights. Even with reheld, I'll tap the screen where it like the Apple camera, it goes for focus and exposure. It's got that square that comes up when you tap the screen, and I'll tap on the brightest part of the image to make sure that it doesn't get overexposed because it's just JPEG,
Mm.
either JPEG or hike or whatever it is, and you know you can edit it after the fact, but you just want to make sure you get a good exposure right off the cuff. Um, you don't want to ruin the image before you get a chance to work with
Right.
it.
Right.
So, that's kind of my
Yeah.
process or
That's
my work.
always a little bit of an issue with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And,
that's kind of my
and
workflow for a long
honestly, when I what?
exposure.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. And whenever I try to do long exposure, I try to do reheld, but I also do a shot in the built-in app to do the long exposure there
Hmm.
that way.
Yeah.
Um, and of course, it won't the built-in one for the camera won't look as good because it's only giving you just a quick little image. It
Yeah.
doesn't have the correct stabilization.
It's basically 3 seconds.
Right, right. So
Yeah.
and it doesn't have, like I said, it doesn't have the AI yet or any other stabilization like retail can do yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm expecting that to be brought in either this year or next year with the
Oh, yeah.
camera,
Hmm.
where there's going to be a lot more processing and built-in magic, which people
Hmm.
will hate, of course.
Oh, yeah.
But I could see that happening a lot more though.
Yeah. And
And honestly, my I like long exposure. I have not had the opportunity to take the shots I want to.
right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Um,
You need the best thing is, of course, running water or something on that, or even clouds
yeah.
where there's
Moving
just
clouds. Yep.
a few clouds in the sky. Yeah, moving clouds. You don't have the complete gray overcast
Yeah. Yeah.
or almost like 100% sunny, which we're kind of going in between.
Yeah.
It seems like.
Yeah. So, and I think I'm going to throw this in here too about reheld. When I'm composing a shot for reheld, there's got to be um, some element that is static in the image because I saw somebody
Yeah.
posted in one of the groups on Facebook. All it was a beach scene where the water was coming up in the sand. So it was basically water and sand, and the image looked terrible. It looked like you were just shaking the camera all over the place.
Hmm.
And they said that they weren't too happy with how it turned out. Well, Salvatore DeAngelis, the developer of Reheld, commented on it and explained that Reheld needs something for the AI to grasp onto to be able to
Hmm.
hold the images still and to line them up. So whether it's a tree, a rock,
Which makes
anything,
sense. That makes
yeah,
sense. Yeah.
and that it's the AI that's recognizing that there is a still object in the image, and so that's that. I didn't realize that. I've never tried a shot like this person did. Otherwise, I probably would have realized that, okay, yeah, this is messed up. But yeah, he said the way it works is like because what it does without a still object, without a static object to grasp onto or to align with, it just gets confused and doesn't know what's being held still. And that kind of makes sense when you think about how the app works. So that's another
Hmm.
piece of the puzzle that I'm going to put into my workflow when I'm using Reheld is to make sure that there's a good static object. So, whether it's,
And
off in the
that's
distance or close up
one,
or
yeah.
whatever. Do
And
you have
that's
any other?
even if you don't know, let's say, yeah, let's say that's even if you don't know the exact how the app works per se, but
Mhm.
knowing a general, that could really help a lot of people using the app.
Oh yeah.
Because if the majority of your image is moving, like you're in front of a river,
Hmm.
um, and you're just trying to get mostly river and just a couple small, maybe, you're getting the river in the foreground, and the only thing really static is like the opposite shoreline, which is so far in the distance, it may not be good enough to view on or clip on.
Hmm.
That could cause a major issue why it's not working for some people.
Well, that's a good point, but I can tell you that, um, one of my recent photos that we're going to look at has just that. It has something in the distant other side of the river that it was able to grasp onto it and make it work. So, but I think if you think, if you're counting on it, say there's some reeds or something sticking out of the water, if they're moving, they're not going to be able to work, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
but yeah, it has to be something definitely solid in the image,
Still.
in some way. Yeah.
Yeah. Which makes sense.
Um, yeah. So, any other workflows that you can think of?
Well, I mean, you have next here about the editing process.
Hmm.
And this is where, for me, this is where it kind of changes on what, like I said, about app use depending on the expected outcome. And this is where a lot of the the branching off happens
Right.
with
Yeah.
my workflow. Where if I see something that is, let's say, highly contrasted or very hazy, whether it's
Hmm.
rain, it's hazy for reason why, or it's just the way the image is, or just the way it turned out, I'll throw it in Lightroom Mobile, and that dehaze feature is amazing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's literally like taking a squeegee to the atmosphere and clearing a bunch of stuff out, which
Yeah.
is it
Yeah.
just works amazing.
Yeah.
Um, but if I don't necessarily have to do that, I may use Photomator. I still may use the Lightroom,
Hmm.
um, depending on like a night shot. You almost help, at least we're around where I am, to get a decent night shot. You still have to do lots of editing just because of the light pollution we have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, it'll just be kind of hazy. You'll be hazy, and there'll be like and not like a good Milky Way, but it'll just everything will just be milky altogether, just because of the light pollution.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
if there's a shot out there that I take, and let's say I want to have it as I want to have a photo that's more photorealistic, for lack of a better, it sounds weird, but the photo I had that I wanted to take, I wanted to be sharp and crisp and clear. And if I'm trying to process it, I'll try it in Lightroom Mobile, I'll try it in Photomator, I'll try it in the Photos app. And if it just doesn't work out, then I'll veer off on the other branch and use apps like Visionist, Art Card, Brushstroke,
Yeah.
apps
Yeah.
like that, or even Camera Plus and their
Hmm.
editing,
Yeah.
and go for more stylistic. I don't want to say impressionistic because I know there's particular. I'm not well versed in art history and what the particular styles are, but something where it's more off the beaten path editing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just throw something weird out there and see if it actually looks halfway decent, or I'll try
Yeah.
this and see if it sticks or not.
Yeah. It's like throwing spaghetti against the
And there's
wall.
a couple of good examples. Exactly. And that's and actually two of my posts of the week are kind of examples of one way and another of how the editing process worked. And
Yeah.
I'll go over the process a little bit when we get to our post of the week too.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, basically it's the same with me when it comes to the editing process. Now, I don't do a whole lot of the artistic things, but I mean, when I try them, I like to see what they do and whatnot. Um, but like it says in our notes here, it kind of depends on the expected outcome. So if I expect that I'm just going to have a a photo that I want to, put my personal kind of style on, then I'll edit it with, you know, Darkroom or Photomator or even Photos. One of those three will do the trick. And but if it's a night shot, like an astro shot, that kind of thing, it just can't be done anywhere but in Lightroom because with that dehaze feature in Lightroom, it's just priceless for something like that. When you take a shot of the Milky Way with an iPhone at 30 seconds on a tripod in night mode, it looks very low contrast and it I mean you can't really do anything with it. Like you can't put it on social because if you do, it's going to look terrible. You have to run it through a process.
Hmm.
And, basically that process involves, playing with the exposure maybe a little bit, noise reduction, that sort of thing. I mean, the iPhone doesn't do an astro shot nearly as good as, say, the Pixel phones do. They do it so much better, but they take a like a 4 minute and 20-second shot or whatever. Um, you know, their algorithms and software is just crazy good for something like that. But and the other thing that the iPhone tends to do is in the center of the frame, it seems to be a little brighter than the outside parts of the frame. So if you've got basically little or no light pollution and point it straight up in the sky, it's going to be a little bit brighter in the center part of the frame. And I don't know if it's just because it's center weighted metering or what the deal is, but and you can't change the way it meters. Not like a Samsung phone. A Samsung phone, you can go from center weighted metering to, multi, you know, segmented metering or whatever they call it.
Mm.
I wish the iPhone could do that, but it doesn't. And if it ever will, I don't know because Apple's 90/90 rule. They're going to want to please 90% of the people 90% of the time. And the 10% like us get left out in the cold. But
Yeah.
so uh the expected outcome of an astro shot is going to be nice dark sky, nice bright stars. If the Milky Way is in it, then you want to, dehaze it and get that Milky Way cluster looking like it's really popping and all that stuff. So, you have to use an app like Lightroom. If you're doing light trails, you could probably get away with, a different app like, Photomator or even the Photos app and get a pretty good result. So, you know, it's just like posting on social for me. It's a complicated thing because,
Yeah.
I have so many,
And it is unfortunate. Yeah.
yeah, I have so many bloody apps on my phone. I could, if I want to do black and white, I can use dramatic black and white or, one of these apps, but it just depends on what I want the
Hmm.
outcome to be.
I'm hoping that Apple, and I mentioned this last year on the podcast, they notice how Samsung and Google Pixel are just making amazing nighttime photos.
Yeah.
Their
Hmm.
astrophotography is so much better, and Apple's noticed, and they're working on their own solution where, you know, I mean, right now there are so many modes on the camera now.
Hmm.
We go from pano to portrait to photo to video to cinematic to slow motion to time lapse.
Yeah.
You know, I don't, I mean, it wouldn't be that. I know people use time lapse. I use time lapse. Um, it would be nice if they had a simple video photo. And within photo, if you select photo, then you can say, like the drop down, you can have when you have live, long exposure, live, bounce, you can have a portrait somewhere, like a portrait on off, like the live feature,
Yeah. Yeah.
and make that, oh, we're using portrait. So, photo, and you hit the button to make it portrait. So instead of having an additional option, but one of those options, just like night mode is an option, it's a button,
Hmm.
you know, you could have not just night mode, but astro mode,
Yeah, that
where
would be nice.
it does it knows that you're taking a photo of the sky. So
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
what you need to do with the presets and the this and the that. And it has a special AI kind of built in, and it's knows what it's doing, and then it takes the photo. Because right
Yeah.
now, people are saying, well, here's the photo I can take. We're not all Shane Moston, but here's the photo I can take in the night sky. And
Yeah.
people are like, oh, here's my Samsung phone from 2 years ago that can blow away your new iPhone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
hopefully they're going to, I don't want to say get embarrassed, that's not the right term, but get adjusted where they're like, we need to spend time. We have 1,000 people working on the camera. You 10 people work on Astro.
Yeah.
It's
They've
a great
definitely,
thing to show up.
yeah, they've really amped it up when they went from, the 12 to the 13 to the 14, Pro phones.
Hmm.
I mean, it's leaps and bounds better now than it was before. Um,
Oh
not,
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think it was a huge leap between the 13 and the 14 Pro, but definitely, I noticed a really big difference going from the
12 to
12 to the
13.
14.
Yeah,
And even 12
yeah.
to
12
13
to
was a pretty
13
good
was a
difference.
huge jump. Yeah,
Yeah.
12 to 13 was a big jump. 13 to 14. We'll see if there is a periscope lens. If they go up to 6x, 10 would be
Hmm.
great, but 6 would be better than 3. If that makes a difference or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we may be able to get hints, not maybe during the keynote, but maybe during the first week of the whole week of WWDC. If there's some kind of weird hidden camera call where the zoom is somehow built into the new iOS, you know,
Yeah, yeah, you'd have to
where it looks for an
really
extra zoom.
dissect. Yeah, you have to really listen to those
Yeah. And there are
presentations
people
that
out
they
there
do.
doing that. There are people, there are experts who do that, which I'm glad they're there.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean keep an eye on the news stories, during WWDC or shortly
Yeah.
after to see if anybody picks anything up. But
Hmm. Yeah,
yeah,
because it
so
doesn't, everyone cares about is Monday on WWDC, and
yeah.
there are things that happen that entire week.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And don't
And
forget, if you download the WWDC app,
mhm,
you can view the sessions.
yeah, that's right. That's how I learned about portrait mode. I watched a WWDC session
Yeah.
on how that all works, and it's interesting stuff. And they're what
Hmm.
they're never more than an hour long, these sessions.
Oh
Some of
no,
them are
no,
probably
no.
half an hour or whatever. So just find out, just look through the schedule and see if there's one you're interested in. Check it out, and if you learn anything, let us know.
No, that is
But
true. Yes.
yeah, so those are some of the workflows that we use, and I mean, everybody's going to have a different way of you know getting the result they want, and if you have a workflow that you think is a kind of a special thing, put it in the Facebook group and
Hmm.
share
Oh
your
yeah.
experience with us, and we'll be glad to read it. So now we will move on to our recent photos, and um, we can go one about again. And I guess
Okay.
I'll start this time. I think you went first last week, so I'll start, or
Hmm.
not last week, last show. Um, so I'll start with one that I took at a popular waterfall in our area here. But this one is not of the waterfall. There's a bridge that goes across the river just above the falls, and there's a
Mm.
there's a big wooden bridge that if it was open, you could probably drive a car across it. But then off to the side to that, there's a small or a narrow, big enough for maybe, two people wide, uh, of a steel grate that goes across. So you can actually see the river below you. So in this
Mm.
image,
Mm.
and look at your screen, folks. It'll be on your phone screen in your podcast app of choice other than Spotify, apparently. And you'll see the image, and it's just where the water is going under the bridge, and it actually just drops down ever so slightly at this point where you'll see the one side's dark. That's where the just the regular flow is, and then it's either dropping down or actually going up a wee bit. I'm not sure because there's some splashing going on, but it's just a slight elevation
Mm-hmm.
change where it suddenly turns into rapids and foam and everything else. And what I thought was cool about this image was that I just put my phone down right almost down to the grate, and I let the lens look through, and it looks like
Mm.
a yin and yang symbol. You know how you got that black and the
Mm-hmm.
white, and it's got that
Yep.
swirl in the middle.
Yep.
So I call this one yin and yang, and it was just a happy accident as far as that part of it goes. I just put the phone down and snapped the picture. Never thought of how it was going to look through that little part of the grate because I didn't get right down that far. Um, I just saw the river there, and I thought, okay, that's where it's going to go.
Yeah.
And and
Mm.
as far as editing goes, just a little bit of editing in darkroom. It didn't take much really, just to make sure that the whites weren't overexposed. And I shot it with reflex, just with the camera and auto. Um, Nothing special as far as taking the photo goes. And but yeah, it just yin and yang. I thought it looked kind of cool.
Yeah. And the other thing I like is on the bottom right, the way the froth goes
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
You have it like a triangle almost, like almost a corkscrew.
yeah. It
And
is
if you
kind of
zoom in,
weird.
it almost looks like mesh. It looks a little mesh
Oh yeah.
like the kind of mesh you would use like fabric from a fabric store.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The bubbles make it look like a mesh. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's cool. I never thought of it that way. I saw the
Yeah.
swirl, or kind of like a corkscrew looking
Almost like
swirl,
a
but
corkscrew, yeah.
yeah, yeah, and that's one fraction of a second in time, and who knows what it would look like had I taken it a second later or a second earlier. Probably never see that again.
Oh yeah.
That's kind of an interesting thing. So your first one is pretty interesting. I saw
Mm-hmm.
you put um it was like a slow motion video, I think, of this on social media earlier today.
Yes. Yes. The waves of grass here.
Yeah.
And this was during a particularly windy day.
Hmm.
And I did do a little video. I did video, and um the way the wind was going, this was taken on Friday. The wind which is coming in, and this is an empty lot in our industrial park. So the grass was a good 2, 3 feet high. So it's
Oh,
almost
really?
knee height for me.
Oh, wow.
And oh yeah, yeah, this was it got cut. So I walked by it today and it was all cut.
Hmm.
But yeah, this was really high. This was just grass. This wasn't like a farm or something where this grass was just not cut.
Yeah, yeah,
But the way the wind was going across it, it was actually, you could see the wind pushing the grass through. But the thing I
yeah.
kind of liked about this was you can see the vertical where the last time it was cut. It still has the indentation, I guess, where the
Mhm.
riding mower wheels were.
Yeah, yeah.
So you
It's
can see
almost like it
like
was cut when it
there's
was damp
leading
or
lines
something.
away from you.
Yeah.
Hmm. Which it probably was, to be honest, just knowing the area. But
Yeah.
it's like, oh, we're in an industrial area. You're due to have your grass cut on Thursday. Well, is it
Yeah.
raining? It doesn't matter. We're getting our grass cut today.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well,
But
it's
also, so you have the lines, but also kind of going across. There's an like almost like a checkerboard pattern to it.
yeah, and that's the wind doing that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because it doesn't, when I first looked at this, I didn't realize it would have been that deep, like that tall.
Yeah.
Like I thought, well, I mean, maybe it's
Yeah.
about
It's
6 inches tall or something,
exceptionally.
but yeah, that's
Oh, yeah. That
that's there's a lot of
it's a
detail
little
in
bit
the
easier to
grass.
see in the video, but yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And like I said, it's almost a checkerboard between the way the sun was hitting it and the reflection, the way it was hitting, and the wind at times was really kicking up that day. So
Yeah.
it's just something that kind of stuck out.
Well, now that, looking at it and knowing that the wind is blowing, you can actually, okay, so there's a spot in the upper right quarter of the frame where you could really see some of the grass leaning over. So, you could
Mm,
tell
yeah.
that yeah, that wind is blowing that pretty good. And
Hmm.
any of the spots that look, a little lighter than the rest, those kind of spots are where the wind's hitting it too, I think. And it's cool. It's a cool shot. And it for an empty lot, it just looking at it off the cuff here, it doesn't look like there's a ton of weeds or anything in it. You can see the odd one
No.
here and there, but it looks like a fairly clean lot. Like it's well
Hmm.
looked after, except for
Well,
the fact that it hasn't been
what
cut in a while.
what I mean by yeah, there is a building on it, so it's kind of in the industrial park. That area's owned by the whoever, or however, if you buy their lot or rent the space or whatever.
Mhm.
So there is a building on there. That's just that when they built it, they left this large triangle on the corner without any bit of the building there.
Oh yeah.
So the
Huh.
building's kind of a bracket shape, but it's not like a big square building where it would go all the way to the corner for whatever reason, whether that's, oh, let's leave this open for future expansion.
Mm.
Because if you notice, like right on straight ahead, you can see the brick there.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know if that was designed that, oh, we want this far, but if we want to expand, well, all we have to do is blow out a couple things here and we can expand out. We have the space.
Hmm.
Or if they just wanted that open for this to have a nice area where people can look out on the grass and, look out their windows, which I don't think anyone ever does. Or
Yeah,
I'm not the architect, so it's hard to say why they left this corner, but it's a big square area, which
yeah,
is just
yeah,
grass though.
yeah. So, folks, if you want to see, the wind blowing this grass, I know you've got it on Facebook. Did you put it on Instagram?
Yeah, I did put on Instagram too.
Yeah.
So it,
Okay.
it is
So
a reel
go.
on Instagram.
Yes. Yeah. So go to
Yeah,
Dave's Instagram and have a look at it. It looks really cool. It's slowed down, right? It's not real speed, is it?
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
No, no, I did slow it down because I wanted to give more of because the wind was going fast enough. I wanted to give a little more feel for what the wind going across
Yeah. Yeah.
the grass versus just the straight below.
Yeah. Well, it's a cool shot. As plain as some people might think it looks, it still has some character to it, especially after seeing the video and seeing how the grass is leaning over. It's amazing how
Hmm.
a simple shot of grass can spark up such a conversation about it. So my
Hmm.
second one is a dog, a dog's nose.
I saw that.
Yeah. So I was at my parents' place. This is Monday, yesterday. So I was out there yesterday, and my cousin dropped by, and this is his dog. Dog's name is Vicky,
Aw.
and oh, she was just a sweetheart. Border collie.
Mm-hmm.
Just loved getting her picture taken. Loved the attention. So
Mm-hmm.
I took this shot in with the ultra wide and it actually bumped into macro mode because I was that close. And she just sat there and let me take a picture. And I thought for a second there, at one time, I
Oh
thought I got
wow.
her blinking just one eye. So it would be like winking. And when I took the picture, I saw her eye blink, but it didn't catch that. I think it just missed it. That would have been just an epic shot.
Oh.
But so what I did with this one is I opened it up in focus and let it do its AI thing and turn it into a portrait mode shot so I could really blur everything down below her, like the floor and that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just, what did I do with it? I think I took it into Photomator and used one of the presets in there, and then just tweaked it a little bit from there. But so I mean, you could tell that it's not a true portrait mode. Even if I did shoot it in portrait mode, if you look underneath her nose, which this is probably maybe on her chest even, or on her chin, there's some of her hair that starts off
Mm-hmm.
sharp and then goes kind of wonky. So, that's just the nature of portrait mode. And but so it's not perfect, but I just thought it was cute, her and I tried to focus on her eyes. And so that's why her nose is just a little bit more on the blurry side compared to her eyes, because her
Okay.
eyes are, they're probably 6 inches beyond like past her nose. So she's got a long snout on her.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it was um
No.
she's just a real treat to take pictures of.
It's so nice when dogs actually are not bouncing around when you're trying to take photos of. Which I'm
Yeah,
shocked
yeah.
with the border collie because normally they're hyper.
Yeah, but she was really good. Like she
Oh.
when I was sitting in a chair, she'd come over and she wanted to, rest her head on my leg and stuff like that. So she was a pretty calm dog. Now, get her outside with the
Oh
other
shit.
dogs that
Yeah.
they have out in the farm there, she'd probably
Mm-hmm.
just be a little hellion.
It almost
But
looks a little like a fisheye lens.
it does, yeah, yeah. But yeah, no, that's just the ultra wide.
Hmm.
You know, showing the nose up really, really close, and then everything as it gets further away just looks really far away. So, um, yeah, so that's Vicky.
No.
So your second one, I think I titled this one in my mind, Dave's Layered Lookout. I'm not sure what
Okay.
else to call it, but that's what it
Yep.
kind of looks like to me.
Yeah. Or even Chateau on the Hill.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's a good one.
This was actually taken during a break in the cloud in the rain or near the end of the rain,
Hmm.
and this was with the 3x zoom. The hill beyond that's framed by the trees in the foreground um, is across the river and on top of the hill. I just like the way it was framed with the trees that were close by.
Hmm.
The way that they own because it goes higher on the ends and kind of the trees in the middle are lower,
Yeah,
so it almost
yeah,
creates a frame with the photos there.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I did do a good amount of edit. This is one I did in Lightroom and Photomator. I
Okay.
try to use Photomator's ultra resolution
Oh,
just
okay.
because I know when you get to 3x, you lose something, of course.
Hmm.
And this is a good mile away, I think. So this is where, as I drone on and on about, and a telescopic zoom would be very helpful for everybody.
Oh yeah, for
Um,
sure.
and that's
Hmm.
that's also why there's a little the trees directly in front of the buildings and the building itself are a little um lighter in color and a bit
Oh
of a
yeah.
haze to it because it is
Hmm.
across the river.
Yeah, yeah.
So you do get a little bit. That's why it's almost like I said about the trees in the foreground. I was able to I boosted the color a little more than they naturally were because I wanted to give it a little bit of a pop there, and then
Hmm.
having the haze in the background there again, more of like a idea for framing. And this is kind of going down to where seeing what you can see with your eye, which is better dynamic range, better color range than what the phone can bring in, especially if there's a little bit of drizzle or anything going on, and
Hmm.
trying to match what I saw or what I thought I saw, because memory is horrible for people, to what I want the photo to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like the layering in here. Like, at the very, very bottom of the frame, there's a building with a chimney on it. And then
Hmm.
just behind that, you've got trees, and then those trees form the frame that you're talking about. But then beyond that, you've got the trees on the hill across the river. And then, of course, then the chateau. And then beyond that, the sky. So there's like one, two,
Hmm.
three, four. There's like five layers in this frame alone. And I think that's really cool. I like the color that you gave it. It makes it pop. It really stands out. And for a shot that's taken with the three times zoom, um, it's not bad. I mean, it's you can see what it is. It's not like it's that distorted or that pixelated or whatever.
Hmm.
But no, it looks cool, and just the right amount of clouds in the sky, I think too.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and using the haze and the clarity fill
mhm.
options, and I did this in Lightroom and Photomator. That really brought out, because it's really hard with the unedited photo. It's You can kind of see where the clouds are and where a little bit of the blue sky is, but it's really hard to notice.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
sometimes you just gotta push the editing a little bit.
yeah. Well, yeah, yeah. And that's what those sliders are for. Take them from one
Hmm.
extreme to the other to see what happens with them, and then settle on whatever suits your taste for sure.
Yeah, and it makes it,
So
and most programs make it so easy to try different things, and and if you don't like the way it turns out, you can always undo it. That's the great thing.
exactly, yeah, yeah. All right. So my third one, this one, this one, this is cool. I like this, and it's a reheld shot. We were down at the park today walking the dog, and there's a river down there, of course. And now that like this is our long weekend, um, we call it May 24. It's always around May 24th. It's
Mm.
Victoria Day weekend for Canada, and it's the first, you know, it's basically the official start of summer this weekend. And it was pretty busy down there. And down at this park, they have these paddle boats that you can
Mm.
rent and go up the river and back. And this was a paddle boat going by as I was doing the exposure.
Oh,
And
okay.
I'm I just got to look this up real quick to see what that exposure time was. Um,
I was wondering what I at first I thought it was like a artificial waterfall or artificial step down,
oh yeah.
where the blue, the white there was kind of the edge,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
maybe there was, like an artificial underneath was blue that gave it the blue
Hmm.
color, or blue color is something you added. But
Yeah, yeah.
now knowing that it is basically, that's the boat going across.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
that makes a lot
So
more sense. Yes.
yeah, so I used the telephoto camera, the 3X, and I actually held the phone against a tree to make sure it was very still. Of
Hmm.
course, there's a breeze blowing. That's why the leaves in the foreground at the top are moving. But like we talked about earlier, this is the one where Reheld used the weeds or the reeds or whatever coming out of the water and the trees and
Hmm.
that to latch onto to make to hold the image still. And then I started the shot. It's 11 seconds, and I started the shot just as the boat came into view on the right, and then they just paddled on by, and it took basically 11 seconds to go just across the frame. And I was really happy with how it turned out. I did try
Hmm.
one before this. There was a red boat going by, and I was a little late starting it. And or no, let me see. No, I had started it and it came into the frame, but I didn't. hold the camera still enough, and it was just a totally ruined
Mm,
shot. So
okay.
that's why I held this one against the tree to make sure it was going to hold still.
Hmm.
And yeah, and they just went on by, and you can't tell there's people in it. You can't even
No.
tell what it is. Um, but it's just this blue streak going by, and it's a paddle boat. And
Mm. I like the
so,
blue. Honestly, I like the bluish teal to it.
mhm, yeah,
It works better with the green. Red would be a heavy contrast,
yeah, I think you're
but
right.
this
Yeah,
kind of goes more with. It seems like it belongs there. If you didn't, like I said, if
yeah,
you didn't know what it was, you wouldn't know it was a boat.
yeah. But I mean, I could see what you mean by thinking that like it was a step down in the water or something. Now that I hear you
Hmm.
say that, I can actually visualize it being something like that. Because I mean, there's no way of telling which way the current's going.
Right.
It's actually going from left to right, but it was fairly slow moving. The current was so, but yeah, and of course, the boat's causing ripples. That's why the water looks so splotchy, I guess you could say,
Hmm.
especially below the blue streak in the frame there. But that's because it's one of those boats where you kick your feet and the paddles go splash, splash, splash in the back, and it caused I guess a fair bit of a wake in the water. So, but yeah, I just thought it was cool. I did the
Hmm.
edit in Photomator,
Okay.
and you know just contrast, color, a little bit of stuff like that, and the
Hmm.
16:9 crop. So that's pretty much all I did to it.
Mm. That turned out
So
real nice.
your third one. Okay, yeah, this one's gonna throw everybody for a loop because it sure did
Hmm.
me.
Well.
We talked about Dave and I talked about what this actually is
Hmm. And I
before
did
hitting
post
the
this to the
record
group.
button.
And I did post this to the group, seeing
Just
if
this
anyone,
version?
yeah, just this version
Okay.
to see. And I said it was a common household item,
Yeah, yeah,
and it was a photo
yeah.
because this does not. When I after I was done dealing with it, it to me it this is one of the processes where I took the photo, not saying what it is yet,
Hmm.
but I originally wanted a macro. That kind of gives a hint what it could be.
Right.
I originally wanted a macro shot, and there wasn't enough contrast. It was kind of a solid black looking. I was
Hmm.
I I was hoping for more contrast, more things to pull out, but it didn't work out. Threw it in Visionist. Um, it added the some additional features, some additional sharpening. Did that. Put it in. See, I'm trying to think exactly because I think I put that one in next. Let me see what the. And this is one nice thing is if you do photos and whatever edited it last, it will say like save from Visionist.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and yeah, then I
Hmm.
threw it in art card and did some editing there. Tried to post it to Instagram. It was too vertical. It was too.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't 16 by 9, but it still was too narrow, and Instagram was chopping it off. So
Yeah.
I used their expand thing in Snapseed to
Okay.
expand it, the smart expand,
Hmm.
because it's kind of abstract looking. And it
Yeah.
kind of filled in on the side, so it kind of expanded it out left and right, so it would all fit nicely on Instagram. And it still had a nice look to it, you know. It
Hmm.
still had I still wanted the look of, for me when I was editing it, it almost looked like a mountain valley
Yeah.
with a
Yeah.
little bit of color hitting it. And maybe if you want to look in the dead center in the middle, almost like a sky look. It
Hmm.
almost, or it looks like a painting someone would do on paper, antique paper, yeah, and
Yeah.
antique
Yeah.
crinkled
Hmm.
paper. You would do a landscape picture on that to bring out the look there.
Yeah. And when I looked at it, I thought it might have been like, I mean, I know you obviously, you know, did some artistic things with it, but I thought it might have started out as leaves.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
I wish I could just imagine what some people are thinking when they're looking at this and what possibly it could be. But
And I would
I'll
say
guarantee
go to
nobody
the
gets it.
face. No, I would say go to the Facebook group and before obviously don't podcast because that's an issue. But just try to think what you think this originally could be. Like I said, this is an image. This is I know some people out there do a lot of very artistic things,
Hmm.
but this was just a straight image that I threw into a couple of filters.
Yeah.
So the filters added some additional things, additional shading. I did some work on on tweaking the colors in different programs to make it look a certain way, but this was a real, just a photo. In fact, I was probably trying to think yeah, it says ultra wide image. So this was a macro photo.
Hmm.
But even if you look at the original photo, it can be hard to figure out what it is because
Yeah.
I showed it to you and you were like, "Oh, that looks like asphalt."
Yeah, it
And
did.
that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
But in this case, I made some coffee off of a drip coffee maker, not a K cup, but get some ground coffee, throw it in there,
Hmm.
have the water pour over top.
Yeah.
And after made coffee, pulled it out, getting ready to throw out the grounds. And these are coffee grinds from a
And
dark roast coffee.
if you look on your phone screen, you'll see it. You'll see what it looks like.
Yeah.
And if you're like me, you'll wonder how the heck you got you got this from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean that's what I love about the images that you put on the show here. Your creativity is off the charts, especially with this one, because I never in a million years would have dreamt to do this
Yeah.
with a picture of coffee grounds. It just um it just takes, like you'd mentioned before we started recording, something about being like impressionist. Um, I mean, I could see a face in here.
Hmm.
It's okay, so it's pretty close to where if you put the rule of thirds grid on here, it
Okay.
would be pretty close to the lower left rule of thirds grid in
Yeah, I
that
do see that. Yes.
reddish area. It looks
Hmm.
like a face. And if you look at this long and hard enough, and if you want to see it a little bigger, folks, go to the website to the post where this podcast is posted, and you can look at this a little bigger. But just have a little fun with this for about 5 minutes and just kind of look around and play a little bit of Where's Waldo with it, because you're going to see some stuff in here that's you're going to see different things. Like I could almost see like stingrays and
Hmm.
you know, weird looking duck faces and stuff like this. Like I'm finding all kinds of stuff in this thing.
You know what? I now that you mentioned the face down there in almost dead center, you can almost see a face.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I see it. Oh man, this is so weird. I hope I don't have nightmares. Oh
But yeah,
man, well,
but honestly, the first thought when I saw it was, oh, that may make a really neat macro shot,
yeah.
of the coffee grinds. And like the problem is it was like I said, it's a dark roast. So it's a very
Hmm.
dark, the coffee is very, very dark looking. And the grounds, they were kind of, especially after you wet them down like that, they all kind of tamper down a little bit. You don't get a lot of difference in altitude, if you, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
You know, there's not a lot of contours going on. It's kind of flattish because it's at the top. But with letting the filters do their thing and it's trying to interpret different things and apply its own logic on how things should look, you can get some interesting patterns going on there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like just since you were just talking there, I see a smiling pig. So, okay, people that are listening to this show, go check out this on the Facebook group and on the iPhoneography podcast Facebook group, and put in the comments what you see in it. I'd love to hear what people are
Hmm.
seeing in this image. It's crazy. It's crazy. But, it's bloody coffee grounds, for Pete's sake. But yet, what you've done to it is, I mean, you could blow this up and put it on a wall, and it could be a conversation piece where people will stand there and stare at this thing and see so much in it. Like, I
Hmm.
see fish, I see somebody's face, but it's turned on a 90-degree angle. Um, Gosh, I see so many different things in here. It's just unreal. This is crazy. This is crazy good. This is
Oh, thank
wild.
you. Thank you.
Oh man, makes me want to play with these apps again.
Hmm.
And just take a mundane shot of something and just run it through these things and
Yeah.
see what I get.
Yeah. Honestly, it was like, well, it didn't work out like it. Yeah, let me try my, non photorealistic, like I said about the workflows. It's
Yeah,
almost like, okay, well, I took a shot. Do I want to go photorealistic? Do I want to just make some minor edits? Do I want to pop, or do I want to? Nah, it's not really working out. Let me go completely off the rails and see what happens.
yeah, yeah. So I have to wonder, what do we call this image without calling it coffee grounds?
Right, right.
Hmm.
I could almost, like I said, the thought, my thought was almost like a dry mountain stream.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I said, the part that's kind of the oval, like in the dead center, being kind of like a stream coming down, a dry lake, a dry stream coming down, and the kind of the kind of like you're at the bottom of a hill going up a rocky trapass.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, there's so many. I don't know. I could call this you know, Dave's mixed bag. I don't know. I'll have to think of something creative to call this thing. This is cool. So anyway, well, folks, that's our recent photos, and I'm
Hmm.
glad we did this one last because um it's a banger for sure. It's really interesting, and I could stare at it for probably a lot more than we already have. Um, this is almost as good as your blue caddy.
There we go.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So, okay. Well, I guess on that note, I guess we'll tell everybody where they can find you.
Yep. You can find me on most social media as Prof Pod, on TikTok as Prof Pod PGH, and on the Facebook group as Dave Podner Jr.
Alrighty, and you can find me on about.me/McMillan. That'll probably be the best place where it should lead to everywhere. Uh, Facebook, I'm not sure about, but anyway, you can find me in the Facebook group just with my name, Greg McMillan. Dave and I are in the iPhoneography podcast group, Bloody Legends group with Shane
Mhm.
Mostyn, and the Explorers of Life with Rick Salmon. Those are three just amazing groups where people share their images, and it's a place to learn and it's a place to teach. So check them out for sure. And well, I guess that's it for tonight. We're slowly approaching episode 100. Can't wait to get there and see what happens. So, thanks, Dave. Thanks for putting this image in. This is amazing. I'm going to be staring at it for a while yet.
Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah.
We need the 3 months later.
Yeah,
Wow, that
yeah,
image.
yeah, exactly. All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening, and thanks everybody for supporting the podcast. And we're just gonna keep on keeping on.
Oh yeah.
So, thanks, Dave. We'll talk to you on the next one.
Have a great one, everyone.
Recording.
There we go.
Okay. One, two, three. Everyone has their own way of doing things. So Dave and I talk a little bit about the things. Okay, I screwed that up. One, two, three. Everyone has their own way of doing things. So Dave and I talk a little bit how we get things done with our mobile photography. Plus, there's a couple of nude items.
Oh my. Oh my.
There's a good blooper for the end of it. Okay, one, two, three.